Hey y'all, this is Jessica with Bless Your Heart. Let's do a beach-inspired tumbler today. We're going to start out with a 24-ounce travel mug from Tipsy Magnolia. This will be my very first time using any of their cups. I'm going to tape off my handle with some electrical tape, and then I'm going to move on to the next step. Once I'm happy with that, I'm going to use some of this Prime Time, and I'm going to just paint it all over the cup, a really good solid coat, and get ready for epoxy and glitter. My glitter choices today are going to be the Glitter Guy Vintage, Hades, and Sea Storm, Peachy Olive Glitters Jojoba and Paradise, and Glitter Chimp Crushed Seashells. I'm going to put just a really thin layer of Flynn Sisters Fast Set on here. I'm going to be careful around my handle, and then I'm going to move on to my glittering. I'm going to start with my chunkies, and I am not going full coverage with any of these just yet. I'm just going to kind of sporadically sprinkle these on. Now this Glitter Chimp Crushed Seashells is actually one of my favorite to do anything with sand on, because those pearlescent and opalescent colors really look like the inside of the shells that you see. Now I'm going to move on to the green. I'm not really doing anything out of the norm here for a beach cup. These are just colors that were inspired by a picture I took when we went on vacation this summer. Once you're happy with how you have your chunkies laid down, we can move on to our fines. This is Vintage from the Glitter Guy, and this is one of the colors that they have at Hobby Lobby. I'm going to go full coverage around that bottom rim, and I'm going to make my coverage a little bit lighter as I move further up the cup. Now I'm going to move on to the fine green, which this is Paradise, and I'm going to do the same thing. In the middle of where I want my greens to go, I'm going to go full coverage, and then I'm just going to kind of back and forth, moving it closer to the cup and pulling it further back from the cup when I want to get that blend. For the blue, I'm going to go in with the Glitter Guy Hades. I'm going to go full coverage at that top rim and do the exact same thing I did with the Vintage at the bottom. I'm going to pull my glitter further away from the cup as I pull the glitter further down the cup and try to get that green and that blue to blend as best I can. Once I'm happy with that, we're going to get an epoxy layer on here, and we're going to move on to our waves. For our waves, I'm going to use white epoxy dye, just a drop or two, and I'm going to try out this Grape Ice Mica from the Glitter Guy. I'm going to put just a little bit in there, and we're going to see what kind of waves we make with these two mixed. Now I do have a very thin layer of epoxy already on this cup, and it is still wet. For the bottom set of like the beachy part waves, I'm just going to kind of twirl some of this on here because I want them to overlap and I want there to be a little bit of texture and a little bit of movement. I don't want them to be super uniform. For the rest of my waves or clouds or whatever you want to call them, I'm just kind of going in and back and forth with this epoxy. Once I get enough on there that I'm happy with what I think it's going to look like, I'm going to get a straw and I'm going to kind of feather all of this stuff out just a little bit, and I am going to do that to all of the white epoxy dye that I have on the cup at this moment. This epoxy that I'm using is still fast set. So I want a little bit of more texture in my waves and clouds. So I went into that little medicine cup of epoxy that I've been using, and it is starting to thicken just a little bit. So I did add a couple of more drops of that white epoxy dye, and I'm kind of just following how the straw kind of blew out some of those waves. And I'm going to put just a little bit more of these almost like caps on there. And we're going to take a gloved finger and we're just going to kind of tap, tap, tap where we're putting this white. And that will give us a little bit more of a foamy type texture and give us a little something different. Once we're happy with these waves or whatever, we're going to hit it with our torch and we're going to let this epoxy layer dry. I have now decided that I want to do something with that handle instead of just leaving it bare stainless. So I'm going to use the tiniest amount of epoxy, rub it all over my handle, and I'm going to ombre the finer cuts of the glitters that we have used onto that handle. And you are just going to pull the glitter further back from the cup, the further towards the top or the bottom that glitter is going. Once we're happy with how this handle looks, let's do our very first glitter booty. So I did not film taking that very bottom piece off because I had never done it before, so I wanted to make sure that I didn't do anything super malfunctiony before I showed everybody. I'm going to use the fine cut of green, which is Paradise, and I'm going to go all the way around that outer rim. This epoxy is starting to get warm. Again, it is fast set, so it is a little thicker, and I probably did add a little too much glitter to it, but that's okay. We'll still kind of manipulate it and make it work. But I'm going to go all the way around this outside edge, and then we're going to do the blue, which is Hades, on the inside. When you get all this glitter laid out, you want to hit it with your torch to pop some bubbles, and then you just want to epoxy until smooth. And here we go. Thank y'all so much for hanging out with me today. I hope to see you again soon. Bye.